Hi, and welcome to Yoga at Go-Go. My name is Francesca, and I'm a yoga teacher. This podcast is dedicated to all the yoga passionate, but also to the yoga curious, who still maybe haven't tried yoga yet. I'm sharing my ideas, my thoughts, and experiences in the yoga world with you so that I can make this beautiful practice more accessible for all of you. Hello and welcome everyone to the second episode of Yoga at Go-Go with me, your host Francesca. First of all, I want to thank all of you for your feedback for my very first episode. Keep them coming. I'm still in the learning process, so every feedback is extremely valuable for me. And if there is any topic that you want me to discuss during the podcast, please let me know. You can always write me on Instagram, on Facebook, and I'll give my details at the end of this episode so you can find me easily. And for today's episode, we are gonna go through some of my very, very favorite books in the yoga field. Like the last time, I'll try to keep it short and simple. And it has been hard, but I selected 7 books in the list of my favorite and that I believe are a must read if you're interested in yoga and you want to deepen your knowledge. In every episode, you will get to know me a little better. And in this episode, you might find out I'm a big fan of anatomy. In fact, I choose most of the books to be about the physical practice of yoga and in particularly about anatomy. The reason why I decided to concentrate more on the physical part of yoga or the physical practice of yoga is because I started this way. I approached yoga at the beginning from the physical practice, which is not the only part of yoga. And I will actually give you a couple of books that are also not just about the physical practice, but as this is the easiest approach to yoga, I decided to give you more information about that. So let's start with the very first book of our list, which is gonna be for sure controversial because this is the first book that I bought myself when I started to practice yoga. And if you listen to my first episode, you know that I started my yoga practice with Bikram yoga. So the very first book I bought myself was the Bikram's beginning yoga class. For this particular book, I'm not suggesting you to go and buy the book because I also don't want to support financially this person that wrote the book. And so my suggestion is that if you practice in a hot studio, in a Bikram studio, you can ask to the studio owner if they can lend you the book. We are very happy when students are asking for more informations and when they want to deepen their knowledge about yoga. So as long as you return the book once you are done reading, I'm pretty sure every teacher will be extremely happy to give you the book for a certain amount of time. The reason why I'm suggesting this book, not just to the Bikram students, but actually to all of you that just started yoga and maybe started with a hatha class in particular, is because this book is very easy. You have not a very extensive content because you have just the explanation of 26 postures and 2 breathing exercises and 26 very traditional postures, so you will find them in other classes as well. And there are pictures that explain the postures, and the explanation are very easy. Consider that when I started yoga, I could barely speak any English, and this book was like easy for me. I could read it and read it again, and it was easier than taking the class where I will hear this teacher talking very fast, and sometimes I will miss some information that I found in the book, for example. So if you're looking for something very easy to deepen your knowledge, for example, about alignment, or if you're practicing Bikram, to deepen your knowledge about all the postures that you're gonna find during the practice, during the class, go ahead and start with this one. Alignment is a topic that is very dear to me, and that we're definitely gonna talk more about in another episode and not in this one. Just one thing that I want to add is for this book and other books about alignment, always take what is written with the grain of salt. Consider that alignment is based on aesthetic, so something that aesthetically looks good and not necessarily will fit every single body. This is just a very short thing that I'm gonna say about alignment because it's way more extensive than this, but just as an introduction to the topic alignment. So going on with our list, the second book in our list is Lights on Yoga by Iyengar. Lights on Yoga has been called the Bible of modern yoga and includes an introduction to the philosophy and practice of yoga, detailed descriptions of more than 200 postures, techniques for stilling the mind through breathing exercises, over 600 photographs illustrating the posture and breathing techniques, a 300-week yoga course progressing from beginner to advanced level, exercises and posture for specific conditions. And for example, I use it more like a manual, so more like a dictionary, I would say. When I have some doubts about, for example, breathing exercises, when I have some doubts about how to go into maybe a more advanced posture, I will look into this book. And also here, take everything with a grain of salt. For example, in the section about the practice of asana, which is the biggest part of the book, there is a very nice introduction about what are the best behaviors to have before practicing yoga. And some of them are very reasonable and good advices, like do not eat too much before practice or empty your bladder before the practice. And some of them will be something like do not practice or do headstands during your menstrual cycle, which for me is pretty much a myth that a man is saying about menstrual cycle and the yoga practice. As long as you feel good and you don't have any pain in your body, you can do pretty much whatever you want in your yoga practice. I can just tell you that. Last thing I will say about the menstrual cycle in this episode is always listen to your body, no matter what. And if you have any doubts about your body and the physical practice of yoga, consult a doctor. If you are concerned that there is something that can hurt your body, maybe because you have an history, go and consult your doctor. There is no book, there is no teacher that will give you a more professional answer than a doctor. The third and fourth book are both from the same author, Bernie Clark. The first book is The Complete Guide to Yin Yoga, the Philosophy and Practice of Yin Yoga. This book provides an in-depth look at the philosophy and practice of Yin Yoga, plus illustrated section on how to practice Yin Yoga, including description with photographs of 30 Yin Yoga asanas. In the first episode, I gave you a little introduction about Yin Yoga. Here I'm reading directly from the cover of the book. Yin Yoga is a part of the original Hatha Yoga tradition. In its modern incarnation, Yin Yoga combines the influences of Indian yoga with Chinese Taoist practices and Western science to improve our health on many levels. With its emphasis on long-held passive stresses of the deeper connective tissues, Yin Yoga mobilizes and strengthens our joints, ligaments, and deep fascial networks. I really like this book because it gives a very simple description of what Yin Yoga is, and especially if you just started and you want to get to know a little more about this practice, this book will really help you to get to know this practice. And at the end of the book, you can also find some classes, some example of classes, 60 minutes or 90 minutes long, all divided by the different parts of the body that are focused on or the meridians. So very inspirational and really suggested if you are starting with Yin Yoga. The next book has a very scientific approach to the yoga anatomy. As I said before, is also by Bernie Clark and it's called Your Body, Your Yoga. From the introduction, Your Body, Your Yoga goes beyond any prior yoga anatomy book available. It looks not only at the body's unique anatomical structures and what this means to everyone's individual range of motion, but also examines the physiological sources of restriction to the movements. This book is absolutely amazing. There is a lot of information and get ready to see a lot of statistic because as I said, he's using the scientific approach to talk about yoga anatomy. And I suggest this book to everybody that is interested to get to know more about the human bodies. Also, the next book is about anatomy, is The Key Muscle of Yoga, Your Guide to Functional Anatomy in Yoga by Ray Long. The Key Muscle of Hatha Yoga is a book with over 650 full-color illustration covering over 30 key muscles as applied to Hatha Yoga, including biomechanics and information on the chakras. Reading from the introduction, athletes can improve their performance and experience fewer injuries through a basic understanding of their musculoskeletal system. Similarly, yoga practitioners can benefit from the application of Western science to their practice development. The first volume presents key muscle in the context of Hatha Yoga. This book is very well illustrated. You will find a picture for pretty much every single page of the book. And I promise this is the last anatomy suggestion for this episode. And we can go on with the last 3 books. The next 2 books are the real must read of the list for today. And I kept them towards the end of the episode because for me are the most difficult lectures of all the books that I listed so far. But by any means, I believe they are the most important books that you should read if you are interested in yoga and you want to deepen your knowledge in yoga. So the first one of these 2 is the Bhagavad Gita, and I chose A Walkthrough for Westerns by Jack O'Lee. And I apologize if the surname is pronounced incorrectly. I'm just not 100% sure how to pronounce this name. And I will read from the cover. The Bhagavad Gita has been called India's greatest contribution to the world. For more than 5,000 years, this great scripture has shown millions in the East how to fill their lives with serenity and love. In these pages, Jack O'Lee brings these ancient secrets to Western seekers in a beautiful prose version that makes the story of the Gita clear and exciting and makes its truth understandable and easy to apply to our busy lives. I have to be honest with you, I tried to read this book multiple times and I never managed to read it in one bit. Sometimes I need to go back to the same sentence over and over because it's very dense of meaning, and you don't need to read it in one time, and you can take your time with this, absolutely. And I suggest it to everyone that wants to deepen their knowledge in yoga and not in just the physical practice of asana. Same thing applies for the next book, which is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, translation and commentary by Sri Swami Sachidananda. I have very beautiful memories of this book, and I will first read from the cover. The Yoga Sutras are a complete manual for the study and practice of yoga. Through his translation and commentary on the classic text, Sri Swami Sachidananda shares his practical, down-to-earth advice on mastering the mind and achieving physical, mental, and emotional harmony in life through applying the ancient yet timeless techniques of Raja Yoga. This book, I believe I never read it from beginning till the end. I always choose a couple of sutras to read from and try to understand as much as possible the meaning of them. And as I said, I have very nice memories of this book. And one in particular is in Virginia. For a short period of time, I was teaching in Virginia, and I had the pleasure to visit Sachidananda Ashram, Yogaville. And during the meal, they will read this book. So it was a very nice experience. I loved that place, and I would love to go back to it one day. And I will connect to this experience with the last book for today's episode, which is Yoga and Ayurveda, Self-Healing and Self-Realization. I actually bought this book in Yogaville. That's why it's connected to the experience, not other specific reasons. And this book was my very first approach to Ayurveda. And I will read now from the cover. Yoga and Ayurveda together form a complete approach for optimal health, vitality, and higher awareness. Yoga and Ayurveda reveals to us the secret powers of the body, breath, senses, mind, and chakras. More importantly, it unfolds transformational methods to work on them through diet, herbs, asana, pranayama, and meditation. This is the first book published in the West on these two extraordinary subjects and their interface. It has the power to change the lives of those who read and apply it. Also in this book, there are a lot of information, but I believe it's very easy to read, and I really enjoyed it. And if you are interested to know more about Ayurveda, this can be a very nice way to begin. So these are my top 7 books to deepen your knowledge in yoga. And let me know in the comments what are your favorite yoga books. Whether it's one of the list or other books that I didn't mention. We will probably have more episode with book suggestions, so all the suggestions are very, very welcome. If you want me to talk more about one of these books, let me know as well. I will be happy to dedicate an episode to one of these books if you like. And for today, this is all from Yoga at Gogo. Please share this episode with every one of your friends that is interested in yoga, and rate the episode. Send me comments. You can always contact me at Francesca_Carosino on Instagram. On there, you can also see all my upcoming events, whether they are online or in Berlin. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Ciao.